Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Off Topic No Context podcast. My name is Justin Park, and I am your host. Today, we are going to talk about something that affects all of us each and every single day, whether we realize it or not, and that is the media and its role in American politics. Think about how often you check your phone, scroll through social media, or see headlines on TV. Most of what we already know about politics actually come from the media. It's basically our main connection to what's happening in the government. Because we're not physically in Washington, D.C., the media becomes our eyes and ears. But it's not just about giving us information, it actually shapes how we think about politics, the stories we see, the way that they're presented, and even what gets covered in the first place can influence our opinions. So in a way, the media doesn't just report the news, but it also helps create the political reality we live in. Before we talk about specific roles, it is important to understand what we mean by media. In politics, the media includes all ways information that is shared with the public, such as TV news, radios, and social media. It basically acts like a connection between the government and the people. Without it, most citizens wouldn't have direct access to political information. Now, the media plays several important roles in democracy, especially as a watchdog, agenda setter, and a scorekeeper. First, the watchdog role. This means that journalists keep an eye out on the government and investigates things like corruption, misuse of power, or unethical behavior. If something goes wrong, the media helps bring it to light. This creates accountability because politicians know that they're being watched, which can discourage them from abusing their power. Second, the media acts like an agenda setter. This means that it influences topics people think about and discuss. The media can't cover everything, so it chooses which issues to highlight. If a story gets a lot of coverage, the public starts to see it as more important. Finally, the media works as a scorekeeper, especially during elections. It keeps track of things like polling, numbers, campaign events, and candidate performance. You will often hear phrases like "this candidate is ahead" or "this campaign is losing momentum." This can shape how people view elections, often making politics feel like a competition. Overall, these roles give the media a lot of power in shaping political awareness and public opinion. The media doesn't just give us information, it also influences how we understand that information. One big way it does this through something called framing. Framing is basically how the story is presented. For example, the same protest can be described as peaceful or dangerous, and those words can completely change how people feel about it. So even if the facts are the same, the way that they're delivered can shape public opinion. There's also an issue of bias and sensationalism. Sometimes media outlets focus on dramatic or controversial stories because they get more attention. Instead of focusing on the other policy discussions, the media may highlight scandals or conflicts. This matters because it can affect how people vote, what they believe, and how they feel about political leaders. Over time, it can reinforce people's existing opinions instead of helping them see a different perspective. A really powerful example of the media's role in politics is the Watergate scandal in the 1970s. It started with a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C. At first, it might have seemed like a small crime, but journalists from the Washington Post, particularly Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, started to dig deeper. They discovered people connected to President Richard Nixon's administration were involved, and even worse, that there was an attempt to cover it up. The media didn't just report what was happening, they kept investigating over time, piece by piece. They relied on confidential sources, including the famous Deep Throat, who provided key information that helped uncover the truth. As more articles were published, other news outlets picked the story up, and it became a national issue that people couldn't ignore. The media kept revealing new details, and the public began to lose trust in the president. This is where the watchdog role really stands out, as the media didn't just report the story, they were actively worked to uncover the truth and keep the public informed. As the story grew, it led to official government investigations, hearing in Congress, and increasing pressure on the Nixon administration. Eventually, in 1974, President Nixon resigned from office to avoid from being impeached. This event shows how just powerful journalism can be. Without the media, the public might have never known what was happening behind the scenes, and it proved that media can play a critical role in holding leaders accountable and protecting democracy. So what does that mean for us today? The media is still playing a huge role in politics, but things have definitely changed. With social media and the internet, Information spreads faster than ever, and anyone can share the news or their own opinions. On one hand, this can strengthen democracy because people have more access to information and can stay more informed easily. But, on the other hand, it can create problems like misinformation, biased reporting, or echo chambers, where people can only see opinions that they already agree with. So the media has the power to both support and challenge democracy. It depends how responsibly it's used and how carefully we consume it. In the end, being an informed citizen does not mean just watching the news, but thinking critically about it, questioning sources, and understanding the information that is presented can shape how we see the world each and every single day.